The red dust clouds moved across the sky like angry fingers reaching toward the ground. Lisa Carter pulled her helmet tighter and checked the air filters one more time. The small screen inside her helmet showed a warning message in bright yellow. Letters, a big storm was coming. And it was coming fast. Lisa had been walking across the rocky ground of Kepler 442b for 3 hours now. Her job was to study the rocks and soil of dead planets. The computer files back on her ship said this world used to have people living on it. Humans, they were called. But that was over 200 years ago? Now, the planet was supposed to be empty. The wind started to pick up, and Lisa could hear it whistling through the rocks around her. She looked at her small flying vehicle sitting 20 meters away. It was making strange noises and sparks were coming from one side. The storm was doing something bad to all the machines. Lisa came from a planet far away where her people had blue skin and big eyes. They called themselves Zephyrians, and they were good at science and exploring new worlds. Lisa had spent 5 years studying dead planets, but something about this place felt different. The rocks were arranged in weird patterns. Some of the metal pieces scattered around looked too new to be from 200 years ago. Her communication device started beeping with an urgent sound. The voice that came through spoke in her own language, telling her that a Category 5 dust storm was about to hit her area. She had maybe 10 minutes before the storm would be so bad that she could die. If she stayed outside, Lisa ran toward her flying vehicle, but when she got there, more sparks shot out of it. The engine made a terrible grinding sound and then went quiet. Black smoke came out of the back. The vehicle was broken and she was stuck. The wind got stronger, and Lisa could see the wall of dust getting closer. It looked like a mountain of red dirt moving toward her. She had never seen anything so big and scary. The dust was so thick that it would be like being buried alive. Lisa looked around for anywhere she could hide. Most of the ground was flat, with just small rocks scattered around. But about 50 meters away, she saw something that made her heart beat faster. There was a metal structure built into the side of a small hill. It looked like it was made from the same kind of metal that humans used to build their cities. She ran toward the structure as fast as she could. The wind was so strong now that it was hard to keep her balance. Small pieces of rock and dust were already hitting her helmet and making scratching sounds. Her breathing was getting faster because she was scared. When Lisa reached the metal structure, she saw that it had a door. The door looked old but not ancient. Someone had been taking care of it. There were no rust marks and the metal was clean. She pushed on the door, but it would not open. The storm was getting very close now. Lisa could hear it roaring like a huge, angry animal. The sky was getting dark even though it was still afternoon. She looked at the door more carefully and saw there was a small panel next to it with buttons. Lisa pressed the buttons, trying different combinations. Nothing happened. She was starting to panic when she noticed handprints on the metal around the door. Someone with hands just like human hands had been using this door recently. The first big gust of wind from the storm hit her and almost knocked her down. Dust was getting into every small space in her suit. Lisa pressed all the buttons on the panel at the same time, and suddenly there was a hissing sound. The door started to slide open. Lisa threw herself through the opening just as the main part of the storm reached her location. The door closed behind her with a solid thump, and suddenly everything was quiet except for the sound of her own breathing. She was in complete darkness. Lisa turned on the lights built into her helmet and looked around. She was in a small room with walls made of metal and rock. The air smelled clean, not dusty like outside. There was a soft humming sound coming from somewhere, like machines working. Lisa walked forward slowly, her lights showing her a hallway that went deeper into the hill. The floor was smooth and clean. On the walls, she could see pipes and wires. That looked like they were in good condition. This was not an old ruin. This was a place where someone lived. Her heart was beating fast, but not from fear anymore. This was from excitement. If someone was living here, then the computer files were wrong. Humans were not extinct. At least one human was still alive. On this planet, Lisa walked down the hallway, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. She passed several doors, all closed. Some had small windows, and she could see that the rooms behind them had furniture and equipment. One room had what looked like a bed. Another had tables covered with tools and machines. At the end of the hallway, there was a larger room with a high ceiling. Lisa stepped inside and gasped. The room was full of machines that were definitely working. Lights blinked on control panels. Screens showed numbers and charts. There was a water recycling system in one corner, and she could hear it making soft gurgling sounds. In the center of the room was a table with food containers on it. Real food, not the emergency rations that explorers usually ate. Some of the containers were open, and Lisa could see that someone had been eating recently. Maybe today. Lisa walked over to examine the food more closely. The containers were made from materials that humans used to make their things. The writing on the side was in human language, though her translator was having trouble with some of the words. The food inside looked fresh and smelled good. She heard a sound behind her and turned around quickly. There was nothing there, but she had definitely heard something. Maybe it was just the storm outside, or maybe it was the building settling. But Lisa had a feeling that she was not alone. She walked back toward the hallway, moving slowly and quietly. Her lights showed her the same empty corridor as before, but now she noticed something new. There were wet footprints on the floor leading from one of the side doors toward the main room. Someone had walked through here very recently. Lisa's training told her to be careful. She was alone on what was supposed to be a dead planet, and she had found signs that someone was living here. That someone could be friendly or they could be dangerous. She needed to be ready for anything. She reached for the defense weapon attached to her belt. It was designed to stop attackers without killing them, perfect for situations like this, where she might meet unknown people. But as she touched the weapon, she wondered if she was making a mistake. Maybe whoever lived here was just as scared of her as she was of them. The storm outside was getting louder. Lisa could hear the wind howling and rocks hitting the metal walls. The storm would last for several days, according to her weather equipment. She was trapped here with whoever lived in this place, and they were trapped with her. Lisa made a decision. She would try to communicate with whoever was here. She would be careful, but she would also be respectful. This was their home, and she was the uninvited guest. The discovery she had made was the most important thing that had happened in her career. Maybe the most important thing that had happened in the galaxy for centuries. She walked back to the main room and sat down in a chair near the table. Then she turned off her helmet lights and waited in the darkness, listening to the storm outside and the quiet sounds of the machines around her. Soon, she would meet the person who lived here, and everything would change. Lisa sat in the dark room for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes. The storm outside was getting worse, and she could hear rocks hitting the metal walls. Sometimes the whole building shook when the wind hit it especially hard, but the structure felt solid and safe. She was starting to think that maybe the person who lived here was not home when she heard footsteps in the hallway. They were slow and careful, like someone trying not to make noise. Lisa's heart started beating faster, and she put her hand on her weapon again. The footsteps stopped right outside the main room. Lisa could hear someone breathing on the other side of the wall. She waited, not moving, trying to decide what to do. Should she turn on her lights and announce herself, or should she wait for the other person to make the first move? The decision was made for her when a voice called out from the hallway. It was a deep voice, definitely male, and it spoke in human language. Lisa's translator worked quickly to change the words into something she could understand. "I know someone is in there." The voice said, "I can hear you breathing, and I saw your broken flying machine outside before the storm hit." "The storm is going to last for 3 days, so we might as well talk." Lisa was amazed. Not only was there a human still alive on this planet, but he spoke calmly and did not sound angry or scared. She had expected any surviving humans to be wild and primitive after 200 years of living alone. But this person sounded intelligent and reasonable. She turned on her helmet lights and stood up slowly. "My name is Lisa Carter," she said, letting her translator change her words into human language. "I am from the Zephyrian Exploration Fleet." I came here to study your planet, but I got caught in the storm. I am not here to hurt anyone. There was silence for a moment, and then the voice spoke again. Zephyrian, that's one of the main galactic powers, right? Been a long time since we've seen any of your people out here. The voice paused. You can call me Jake Morrison, and I'm coming in, so don't shoot me, okay? Lisa took her hand away from her weapon and stepped back from the doorway. A figure appeared in the light from her helmet, and she got her first good look at a living human. Jake Morrison was tall and lean, with brown skin that looked weathered from years of living in harsh conditions. His hair was black with some gray in it, and his eyes were dark brown and intelligent. He was wearing clothes that looked like they were made from different materials sewn together, some parts obviously handmade and others that looked like they came from advanced technology. What surprised Lisa most was how healthy he looked. She had expected any surviving humans to be sick and struggling, but Jake looked strong and alert. His clothes were clean and he moved with confidence. Jake was staring at her with the same curiosity that she was showing him. Well, I'll be damned, he said softly. You really are an alien. Blue skin, big eyes, just like the old descriptions. Been wondering my whole life if I'd ever see one of you in person. Lisa removed her helmet so that Jake could see her face. Clearly, her blue skin was lighter than his brown skin, and her eyes were larger and more sensitive to light. Her bone structure was more delicate, and her ears were slightly pointed. She knew she looked as strange to him as he did to her. You are the first living human I have ever met, Lisa said. According to all our records, your species went extinct over 200 years ago. The galactic database lists this planet as uninhabited. Jake laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Extinct? Is that what they're telling everyone now? He walked over to a control panel and pressed some buttons. The room filled with soft light from panels in the ceiling. Come on, I'll show you around. If you're going to be stuck here for 3 days, you might as well learn the truth. Lisa followed Jake as he led her through the shelter. It was much bigger than she had realized. There were living quarters, a kitchen, a workshop, and even a small medical facility. Everything was clean and well-maintained, with a mixture of human technology and equipment that looked like it had been taken from other species. This is just one of my safe houses, Jake explained as they walked. I've got 12 others scattered around this continent. Each one is stocked with enough supplies to last for months, and they're all connected by underground tunnels. Lisa stopped walking. Underground tunnels? How big is this place? Jake smiled, and this time it was a real smile. Bigger than you. Think, a lot bigger. But let me show you something first that will really blow your mind. He led her to a room that was filled with electronic equipment. There were screens showing star charts, communication devices, and what looked like a very sophisticated computer system. Jake sat down at a control panel and started typing commands. What you're looking at, Jake said, is a monitoring station. We've been keeping track of galactic communications for over a century. We know about troop movements, political changes, trade agreements, everything. The galaxy thinks we're dead, but we've been watching and listening the whole time. Lisa felt dizzy. We? How many of you are there? On this planet? About 500,000 in the galaxy? Well, that's harder to say. Maybe 10 million, maybe more. We don't advertise our presence to each other, for obvious reasons. Jake brought up a display that showed communication signals from across the galaxy. Lisa could see that they were intercepting transmissions from her own people, as well as from dozens of other species. The technology was impressive, much more advanced than what she would have expected from a supposedly extinct civilization. But how did you survive? Lisa asked. The records show that your planet was devastated by environmental collapse and war. Your cities were destroyed, your population was scattered. Jake's expression became serious. That's the official story. Yeah, but the truth is a lot more complicated. We didn't just die out from environmental problems, we were helped along. He pressed more buttons and the screen changed to show historical records. Lisa saw images of human cities being attacked. From space, of human ships being destroyed, of human colonies being wiped out one by one. The Hegemony War, Jake said quietly. That's what we called it. Your people and the other galactic powers decided that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to spread across the galaxy. So they started a war to eliminate us. Lisa felt sick. That's not what our history books say. They say that humans destroyed themselves and that the galactic powers tried to help but arrived too late. I'm sure that's what they say, Jake replied. Much easier to sleep at night if you convince yourself that you were trying to help instead of committing genocide. Lisa sat down heavily in a chair. Everything she had been taught about galactic history was wrong. Her own people, the Zephyrians, had participated in wiping out an entire species, and then they had lied about it for centuries. Why are you telling me this? She asked. I could report back to my people about what I found here. I could expose your existence to the galaxy. Jake studied her face carefully. You could, but I don't think you will. You're a scientist, right? You care about the truth. And the truth is that your people and the other galactic powers have been living a lie for 2 centuries. He stood up and walked to a window that looked out onto the storm. Besides, it doesn't matter anymore. We've been preparing for this day for a long time. The day when the galaxy would learn that humans are still alive. Lisa joined him at the window. The storm was incredible, with winds that would have destroyed anything not built to withstand them. But the shelter felt completely safe. What are you planning to do? She asked. Jake turned to look at her. That depends on a lot of things. It depends on whether the galaxy is ready to accept that humans are still alive. It depends on whether the galactic powers are willing to admit what they did and try to make amends. And it depends on what you decide to do with the information I've given you. Lisa looked at Jake's face in the reflection of the window. He was watching her carefully, waiting to see what she would say. She realized that she was probably the most important person in the galaxy right now. Her next words could determine whether humans remained hidden or whether they revealed themselves to a galaxy that had tried to destroy them. I need to think about this, she said finally. Jake nodded. You've got 3 days while the storm lasts. Take your time. But remember, the truth has a way of coming out eventually. The question is whether it comes out peacefully or violently. Outside? The storm continued to rage, but inside the shelter, Lisa felt like she was at the center of a much bigger storm that was about to change everything. Lisa spent the first night in the shelter lying on a bed that Jake had prepared for her. The bed was comfortable, but she could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw images of human cities being destroyed from space. She kept thinking about what Jake had told her about the HFY War. When morning came, Jake was already awake and making breakfast in the kitchen. The smell of real food filled the air, much better than the emergency rations that Lisa usually ate during her exploration missions. Jake had somehow managed to grow fresh vegetables and even had some kind of meat substitute that tasted surprisingly good. Did you sleep well? Jake asked as he handed her a plate of food. Not really, Lisa admitted. I keep thinking about what you told me yesterday, about the war, about what my people did to yours. Jake sat down across from her at the small table. I figured it would be hard to accept. Most people don't like learning that their entire understanding of history is wrong. Lisa ate quietly for a few minutes, then looked up at Jake. Can you show me more evidence? I need to see proof of what you're claiming, Jake nodded. I was hoping you would ask. Come on, let me show you something that will really open your eyes. He led her to a different room that she had not seen before. This room was much larger than the others, with walls covered in screens and control panels. In the center of the room was a large table with a holographic display system. This is my command center, Jake explained. Everything we've learned about the galaxy over the past 2 centuries is stored here. He pressed some buttons, and the holographic display came to life. The first thing Lisa saw was a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. It showed the locations of all the major galactic powers, including her own Zephyrian coalition. But what shocked her was that the map also showed dozens of hidden human settlements scattered across the galaxy. We're not just surviving on this one planet, Jake said. We're everywhere. Hidden colonies, underground cities, secret bases. The galaxy thinks we're extinct, but we've been growing stronger for 200 years. Lisa stared at the map. How is this possible? How did you hide from all the galactic powers for so long? Jake smiled grimly. We learned from our mistakes. During the Hegemony War, we were too visible, too proud. We built big cities and announced our presence to everyone. That made us easy targets. So after the war, the survivors decided to do things differently. The holographic display changed to show historical records from the war. Lisa saw images of human ships fighting desperately against overwhelming odds. She saw human colonies being evacuated just before alien fleets arrived to destroy them. She saw the final battle for Earth itself, where humans fought to the last. Man to buy time for refugee ships to escape. The official records say that Earth was destroyed by environmental collapse, Jake said. But the truth is that it was bombed from orbit by a coalition of galactic powers. 3 billion humans died in one day. Lisa felt tears forming in her eyes. I'm sorry, I didn't know. You weren't supposed to know, Jake replied. The galactic powers made sure that the real history was erased. They created a false narrative about humans destroying themselves, and they've been telling that story for so long that most people believe it. The display changed again, showing more recent information. Lisa saw evidence of human involvement in events that she had thought were natural disasters or accidents. Mining operations that failed mysteriously, causing economic problems for alien corporations. Communication satellites that malfunctioned at crucial moments, disrupting military operations. Trade routes that became dangerous due to unexpected asteroid movements. You've been sabotaging the galaxy, Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. We've been evening the odds, Jake corrected. The galactic powers tried to wipe us out, so we've been making sure they can't get too comfortable. Nothing too obvious, nothing that would expose us, but enough to keep them from becoming too dominant. Lisa stood up and walked around the room, looking at all the screens and equipment. This is incredible. You've built an entire intelligence network without anyone knowing about it. We've had to be creative, Jake said. We salvage technology from crashed ships, we recruit sympathizers from other species, we even have some agents working inside the major governments. The galaxy thinks we're dead, but we've been watching and learning. Jake pressed more buttons, and the display showed detailed information about the major galactic powers. Lisa saw military strength assessments, economic data, and even personal information about important political leaders. We know everything about your people, Jake said. We know their strengths, their weaknesses, their plans for the future. We've been preparing for the day when we would reveal ourselves again. Lisa felt overwhelmed. What day? What are you planning? Jake looked at her seriously. That depends on a lot of factors. Originally, we were planning to wait another 50 years before making our presence known. But things in the galaxy are changing. The major powers are getting more aggressive, more willing to use force to solve problems. We're starting to think that maybe it's time to step out of the shadows. The display changed to show recent galactic events. Lisa saw reports of border conflicts, trade wars, and political tensions between the major powers. She recognized many of the events from her own government's briefings. The galaxy is becoming unstable, Jake continued. The same kind of thinking that led to the Hegemony War is starting to emerge again. Some species are talking about the need to control or eliminate other species that they see as threats. We can't let that happen again. Lisa sat back down at the table. So what are you going to do? Jake was quiet for a moment. We have several options. We could reveal ourselves gradually, making contact with individual governments and trying to negotiate our way back into galactic society. We could announce our existence to everyone at once and demand recognition as a legitimate galactic power. Or, Lisa prompted. Or we could show the galaxy what happens when you try to commit genocide against humans and fail. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. You're talking about war. We're talking about justice, Jake said firmly. The galactic powers killed billions of humans and then lied about it for centuries. They've been living comfortably while we've been hiding in the shadows. Maybe it's time they faced the consequences of their actions. The storm outside was still raging, but Lisa barely noticed it anymore. She was thinking about the implications of what Jake had told her. If humans revealed themselves to the galaxy, it would cause massive panic. The major powers would either try to wipe them out again or would surrender out of fear. How many of you are there, really? Lisa asked. Jake smiled. More than you might think. We've been growing our population for 2 centuries, and we've been recruiting from other species as well. Not everyone in the galaxy was happy about what happened to humanity. Some people have been waiting for the chance to make things right. Lisa thought about her own people, the Zephyrians. They prided themselves on being peaceful and scientific, but they had participated in genocide. How would they react when they learned that their victims were still alive and had been watching them for centuries? You said you have agents inside the major governments? Lisa said. Do you have any inside the Zephyrian coalition? Jake nodded. Several, including some in fairly high positions. We've been keeping track of your people's activities for decades. Lisa felt sick again. Have you been spying on me? Not specifically, Jake said. But we know about your exploration missions, your scientific research, your government's policies. We know more about your people than your own leaders do. Lisa stood up and walked to the window. The storm was still incredible, with winds that made the whole building shake. But she was starting to understand that this storm was nothing compared to the storm that was about to hit the galaxy. What do you want from me? She asked. Jake joined her at the window. That's up to you. You could go back to your people and pretend this never happened. You could report that this planet is still dead and uninhabited. Or you could help us figure out a way to reveal ourselves without starting another war. Lisa looked at Jake's reflection in the window. He was watching her carefully, waiting for her answer. She realized that she was probably the most important person in the galaxy right now. Her decision could determine whether humans remained hidden or whether they revealed themselves to a galaxy that had tried to destroy them. I need more time to think, Lisa said. Jake nodded. The storm will last for 2 more days. That should give you plenty of time to decide what kind of future you want to help create. On the 2nd day of the storm, Jake woke Lisa up early in the morning. She had slept better than the night before, but her dreams had been full of images from the war records that Jake had shown her. Come on, Jake said. I want to show you something that will help you understand what we've really built here. Lisa got dressed quickly and followed Jake out of the shelter. But instead of going outside into the storm, Jake led her to a wall that looked solid but turned out to have a hidden door. Behind the door was an elevator that went down deep into the ground. How deep does this go? Lisa asked as the elevator descended. About 2 kilometers, Jake replied. We built most of our real facilities underground. The surface shelter is just the entrance. The elevator ride took several minutes. When the doors finally opened, Lisa stepped out into a world that took her breath away. She was standing on a platform that overlooked a vast underground city. There were buildings, streets, parks, and even what looked like a small lake. Thousands of people were moving around below, going about their daily lives. Welcome to New Haven, Jake said proudly. Home to about 50,000 humans and the capital of our hidden world. Lisa could not speak for several moments. The city was incredible, built into a natural cave system that had been expanded and modified over centuries. The buildings were a mixture of salvaged alien technology and human engineering. Lights provided artificial sunlight, and she could see gardens growing food throughout the city. This is impossible, Lisa finally said. How could you build something this big without anyone detecting it? Jake smiled. We've had 200 years to perfect our hiding techniques. The rock above us blocks most scanning equipment, and we've learned how to mask our energy signatures. To anyone scanning from space, this area just looks like solid ground. Jake led Lisa down into the city on a small vehicle that moved silently. Through the streets, people stopped to stare at her as they passed. Most of them had never seen an alien before. And Lisa realized that she was probably as much of a curiosity to them as they were to her. The first stop was a large building that Jake called the research center. Inside, Lisa met Dr. Helen Brooks, a woman in her 60s with gray hair and intelligent eyes. Helen was in charge of all scientific research for the hidden human settlements. "So you're the Zephyrian who stumbled into our little secret," Helen sighed, shaking Lisa's hand. "Jake tells me you're having trouble believing that we've survived and thrived down here." Helen led them through laboratories that were more advanced than anything Lisa had seen on her own planet. Humans were working with technology that combined the best features from dozens of different alien civilizations. They had fusion reactors, faster-than-light communication systems, and medical equipment that could heal injuries in hours instead of weeks. "We've learned a lot by studying your technology," Helen explained. "Every time one of your ships crashes or gets abandoned, we send teams to salvage what we can. Over 2 centuries, we've collected quite a collection." Lisa watched human scientists working with equipment that she recognized from her own people's ships, but they had modified it in ways that made it work better than the original designs. "You've improved our technology," Lisa said, amazed. "We've had to," Helen replied. "We couldn't just copy your designs exactly. We needed to make them work with our resources and our needs. In many cases, we've made them work better than they did originally." Helen showed Lisa a communication device that could send messages across the galaxy instantly, something that even the most advanced alien civilizations had not perfected. She showed her medical scanners that could detect diseases before they showed any symptoms. She showed her power generators that were twice as efficient as anything the galactic powers used. "How did you develop all of this?" Lisa asked. "Necessity," Helen said simply. "When you're trying to survive in hiding, you have to be creative. You have to make every resource count. You have to find ways to do things that no one else has thought of." Jake led Lisa to their next stop, which was the military command center. There, they met Commander Ryan Parker, a man in his 40s with the bearing of a professional soldier. Ryan was in charge of security for all the hidden human settlements. "We've been watching your people for a long time," Ryan told Lisa. "We know your military capabilities, your weapons, your tactics. We've been preparing for the possibility that we might have to defend ourselves again." Ryan showed Lisa displays that tracked the movements of every major military fleet in the galaxy. The humans had been monitoring communications, following supply lines, and even infiltrating alien military bases. "We have agents in every major military organization," Ryan explained. "Some of them are humans who have managed to disguise themselves as other species. Others are aliens who have joined our cause. We know about military operations before they happen, sometimes before the aliens themselves do." Lisa felt a chill as she realized the implications. "You could cripple the galactic military forces if you wanted to." "We could," Ryan agreed. "We've identified key supply depots, communication centers, and command facilities. If we wanted to, we could shut down the entire galactic defense network in a matter of hours." Ryan showed Lisa another display that showed human military capabilities. They had ships that were invisible to alien sensors, weapons that could disable enemy vessels without destroying them, and soldiers who were trained to fight in every possible environment. "We've spent 2 centuries preparing for war," Ryan said. "But we've also been hoping that we would never have to use these preparations." Jake led Lisa to the final stop on their tour, which was the civilian areas of the city. Here, she saw families living normal lives, children playing in parks, and people working in shops and restaurants. It was hard to believe that these people were living underground, hidden from the galaxy above. They stopped at a school where human children were learning about galactic history, science, and languages. Lisa was amazed to see that the children were being taught the languages of dozens of alien species, including her own. "We want our children to be prepared for the day when we can rejoin galactic society," the teacher explained. "They need to understand the galaxy as it is, not as we wish it were." One of the children, a girl of about 10 years old, approached Lisa and spoke to her in perfect Zephyrian. Hello, my name is Katie. Are you really from the stars? Lisa knelt down to talk to the girl. Yes, I am. I come from a planet very far away. Will you tell me about it? Katie asked. I want to see the stars someday. Lisa spent several minutes talking to Katie and the other children, telling them about her home planet and her work as an explorer. The children listened with fascination, asking intelligent questions about space travel and alien civilizations. As they left the school, Jake noticed that Lisa was quiet. What are you thinking about? He asked. Those children, Lisa said. They're so curious about the galaxy, so eager to learn about other species. It's hard to believe that their ancestors were nearly wiped out by those same species. That's the difference between us and the galactic powers, Jake replied. We don't want revenge, we want justice. We want to be able to live freely without having to hide. We want our children to grow up in a galaxy where they don't have to be afraid. Jake led Lisa to an observation deck that looked out over the entire underground city. From here, she could see the full scope of what humans had accomplished. They had built a complete civilization in hiding, with everything they needed to survive and grow. This is just one city, Jake said. We have dozens like it scattered across the galaxy. Each one is completely self-sufficient, capable of surviving on its own if necessary. But we're stronger when we work together. Lisa looked at all the people below, living their lives in secret because the galaxy thought they were extinct. She thought about the children in the school, dreaming of seeing the stars but unable to leave their underground home. What happens next? Lisa asked. Jake was quiet for a moment. That depends on what you decide to do when the storm ends. You could go back to your people and keep our secret. You could help us find a peaceful way to reveal ourselves. Or you could warn the galaxy that we're coming, whether they're ready or not. Lisa realized that the next day would bring the most important decision of her life. The storm would end, and she would have to choose what kind of future she wanted to help create. The hidden city below her continued its daily life, unaware that their secret might soon be revealed to the galaxy that had tried to destroy them. On the third morning, Lisa woke up to silence. The storm had finally ended during the night, and for the first time in 3 days, she could not hear the wind howling outside. She got dressed and found Jake waiting for her in the main room with breakfast ready. The storm is over, Jake said quietly. Your ship should be able to pick you up in a few hours. Lisa sat down at the table but found that she was not very hungry. She had spent most of the night thinking about everything she had seen and learned. In a few hours, she would have to make the most important decision of her life. Have you decided what you're going to do? Jake asked. Lisa looked at him across the table. Over the past 3 days, she had come to respect this man and his people. They had survived something terrible and had built something amazing in response. But she was still struggling with what her choice should be. I keep thinking about those children in the school, Lisa said. They want to see the stars, but they can't because of what my people did to their ancestors. Jake nodded. That's the hardest part for me, too. Knowing that we have to keep hiding, that our children have to grow up in secret, because the galaxy still isn't ready to accept that we exist. Lisa stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see her damaged flying vehicle sitting where she had left it 3 days ago. But now she could also see that it had been repaired and improved. Jake's people had worked on it during the storm. You fixed my vehicle, she said. We did more than fix it, Jake replied, joining her at the window. We upgraded it. The new systems will make it invisible to your fleet sensors if you want them to be. You can get back to your ship without anyone knowing where you've been or what you've seen. Lisa understood what he was offering her. She could return to her ship, file a report saying that the planet was uninhabited, and keep the human secret. Her career would continue normally, and no one would ever know about her discovery. Or, Jake continued, you could use the new communication system we installed to send a message to your fleet telling them what you found here. That would start a process that would change everything for both our species. Lisa turned away from the window. There's a third option, isn't there? Jake smiled sadly. There is. You could stay here with us. Help us figure out how to reveal ourselves to the galaxy in a way that doesn't start another war. Be the bridge between humans and the other species. Lisa had been thinking about this possibility all night. If she stayed, she would be giving up her old life completely. She would never see her home planet again, never see her family or friends. But she would be part of something important, something that could change the galaxy for the better. What would happen if I go back and tell my people the truth? Lisa asked. Jake was quiet for a moment. Honestly? Probably panic. Your government would want to study the situation, figure out how much of a threat we represent. Other governments would want to eliminate us before we could become a problem. It would probably lead to another war, just like 200 years ago. Lisa walked around the room, looking at all the technology that humans had developed during their time in hiding. And if I keep your secret, then things continue as they are, Jake said. We stay hidden, we keep watching and waiting, and eventually we reveal ourselves when we think the time is right. But that could be decades from now, and in the meantime, our children keep growing up in underground cities. Lisa stopped walking and looked directly at Jake. And if I stay? Jake's expression became hopeful. Then maybe we can find a different way. You understand both sides. You could help us communicate with the galactic powers. Maybe we could find a way to reveal ourselves gradually, species by species, instead of all at once. Lisa thought about the conversation she had had with little Katie at the school. The girl had been so excited about the possibility of seeing the stars someday. Lisa imagined what it would be like for Katie to grow up never being able to leave the underground city, never being able to explore the galaxy that she was so curious about. The children shouldn't have to pay for the mistakes their ancestors made, Lisa said. And they shouldn't have to pay for the mistakes my ancestors made either. Jake nodded. That's what I think too. But changing things isn't going to be easy. There's a lot of fear and hatred on both sides. Lisa walked back to the window and looked out at her repaired vehicle. She could see that Jake's people had done excellent work. The vehicle looked better than it had when she first arrived on the planet. If I stay, Lisa said slowly, what exactly would I be doing? Jake joined her at the window again. First, you would help us understand how the current galactic governments work. Things about Zephyrian politics and military capabilities that we can only guess at. Second, you would help us plan how to make contact with other species. And third, you would be our first ambassador when we do reveal ourselves. Lisa thought about her career as an explorer. She had spent years traveling to dead planets and studying the remains of extinct civilizations. But here was a chance to be part of something living and growing, something that could shape the future of the galaxy. There's something else to consider, Jake said. If you stay, you'll be sending a message to both humans and aliens that cooperation is possible. You'll be proving that our species can work together instead of destroying each other. Lisa closed her eyes and tried to imagine what her life would be like if she made each of the three choices. If she went back and kept the secret, she would spend the rest of her life knowing that she had left an entire civilization trapped in hiding. If she went back and revealed the truth, she might start a war that would kill millions of people. But if she stayed... I've made my decision, Lisa said, opening her eyes. Jake waited, not speaking. I'm going to stay, Lisa said. But I want to do more than just help you plan for the future. I want to start making contact with individual aliens right now. People like me who might be willing to listen and understand. Jake's face lit up with hope. You think there are others who would help us? I know there are, Lisa said firmly. Not everyone in the galaxy supported what happened to humans 200 years ago. And not everyone will support keeping you hidden now. We just have to find the right people and approach them carefully. Jake reached out and shook Lisa's hand. Welcome to the human resistance, he said with a smile. Lisa smiled back. I prefer to think of it as the Galactic Peace Movement. Over the next hour, Jake helped Lisa send a message to her fleet using the upgraded communication system. The message said that she had been forced to take shelter during the storm and that her survey of the planet was complete. The planet was uninhabited and should remain off-limits due to dangerous weather conditions. Lisa's commanding officer responded quickly, saying that they were glad she was safe and that they would pick her up in a few hours. Lisa sent back a message saying that she wanted to extend her survey mission to explore some nearby asteroids and that she would meet up with the fleet at a different location in a few days. This would give her time to establish her new identity as a human ally without raising suspicions among her own people. As Lisa watched her flying vehicle disappear into the sky, carrying automated equipment that would make it look like she was still using it, she felt both sad and excited. She was giving up her old life, but she was starting a new one that might be far more important. Jake put his hand on her shoulder. Ready to start changing the galaxy? Lisa looked at the entrance to the underground city where thousands of humans were living in secret, waiting for the day when they could safely return to the stars. She thought about Katie and the other children who dreamed of exploring the galaxy. Let's get started, she said. The storm had ended, but Lisa's real journey was just beginning. For the first time in 2 centuries, a human and an alien were working together to build a better future for both their species. It would not be easy, and it would not be quick, but it was the first step toward healing the wounds that had divided the galaxy for far too long.